Hello and welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Jantz. My guest today is Katie Hollar. She leads the marketing team at Clutch, the leading global marketplace for business service providers since 2022. She focuses on building a multidisciplinary marketing team to drive growth for both buyers and vendors. Before Clutch, Katie was the CMO at Dwellful, a prop tech startup, and has over a decade of marketing leadership in the online B2B marketing marketplaces, I should say. So, Katie, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
So we probably better clutch.co. We probably better give a little bit of overview of what Clutch is, maybe what your mission is in the agency space.
Absolutely. So Clutch is an online marketplace that helps connect buyers and sellers of business services. So we have over 1,500 different specialized categories of services that folks might be coming to our site to look for a provider to help them with their business, everything from accounting firms to digital marketing agencies to web development companies all over the globe. And so we are a resource to help you read reviews, compare different providers, and ultimately select which one is going to be the best fit for your business.
So is that an expansion of the original mission? Was it, I recall, was Clutch primarily focused in the marketing space?
Clutch started really focused on IT services, and that
Okay.
was where it really built the early foundation, but marketing was a fast follow. And so a lot of our traffic today, a lot of our service providers specialize in different digital marketing specialties. And today we're going to talk a little bit about fractional CMO models, which is an increasingly popular type of service that we're seeing demand for across the platform.
So essentially, you are Clutch is a review and matchmaking service. So would that be fair?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, it's very, so to help people say it's like Yelp for B2B businesses or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
you probably don't use that characterization.
Yelp is one that comes up a lot. TripAdvisor, Zillow, this whole category of kind of online marketplaces that help bring buyers and together. And we've had over a decade of history of building up this wealth of content specifically around business services and how to find the right professional services for your project.
So, I know there aren't a ton of competitors in the space, but there are certainly other folks in it. How would you, if somebody was asking you how Clutch was different, I mean, how do you differentiate Clutch from kind of this growing, space?
Yeah, great question. So I think in a few ways. One is we're really focused on this services search, right? And helping professionals such as yourself, such as myself, who need help finding the right agencies or firms for specific business project or need. And so all of our content has really been focused on how do we get in-depth reviews is almost underselling, but really like deep case studies and stories around the experiences that people have had with the different providers. So an average review on Clutch is almost 500 words long. We really go very in depth with folks on understanding what were the deliverables of the project, what was the timeline, what did you spend, what was the outcome, how did you measure the success, to give people a lot of context on, is this going to be the right business for me to partner with for this industry, for this stage of my growth, for this particular need. And so we very much focus on the services buying. There's other sites out there that focus on software and focus on, other parts of B2B buying, but that's been our core, and it remains our continued focus is really how do we make sure that we're connecting you to the right services. And I would say another way we're differentiated from other sites you might go to, you might think of like an Upwork or a Fiverr that's like helping you get freelance talent. We're really more focused on like the professional services firms when you want kind of an agency of support, not an individual who's going to help you with like a one-off task, but a more robust kind of retainer-based or ongoing project where you need a team of folks or someone with just more experience and professional structure to help you with a certain outcome.
So particularly since people, especially a buyer, is coming there and they're looking for a resource, they're really counting on you to have vetted and gone through the process, and that those reviews, truly are a third party. What do you say to that person? It's like, oh, I don't know if I can trust those. I mean, how do you safeguard those to make them, true reviews, true case studies?
Yeah, we go through a pretty robust verification and validation process. And I think this is increasingly coming about as there's more AI generated content.
Right.
There's lots being published online today that I think everyone is attuned to. Hey, where did this come from, and how can I trust it? And so we've actually found the most successful way to get this review content. If you think about the types of folks who are typically procuring agency relationships, they're typically pretty senior in their organization. They might be a founder owner for a small business. As
True.
it grows, you're probably a VP department level kind of pretty senior person who's busy and doesn't have a lot of time to go write this whole story around the agency they worked with and what they worked with them on. And so we found the best way to get that is to actually have a phone call with that individual. And we actually we have teammates who talk directly to the buyers or the previous buyers and understand their client experience with the agency, ask them really specific follow-up questions. And so that's been kind of the most successful way to verify that this is a real experience and get kind of that really helpful content to help create a very thorough, verified story. But of course, we accept online reviews as well, and we check for work history and identifying the relationship between the service provider and the buyer. We do accept all reviews, positive or negative. So we often get the question, well, will you allow an agency to kind of take down a negative review? We won't. We want it to be really a biased, helpful platform that gives you kind of the full picture of all of the client experiences, and we encourage our providers to respond to those, right? Because nobody's perfect. There's always a client that had a bad experience here or there and it wasn't the right fit, but the best thing you can do is respond to that and give your side of the story and show how you're moving on or learning from that experience.
Yeah, I always tell people responding to negative reviews is not really so much a response to that person that wrote it; it's to the public. How you respond is probably as important as what happened. Um, Clutch has grown very large, so you have a very large database, a lot of users and buyers, both sides. Do you ever spot or do you pay attention to trends in terms of what people are looking for, how maybe even agencies, obviously we deal mostly with marketing agencies, how they're changing, what they pitch even, or what are you seeing as kind of the most significant trends currently?
Yeah, really great question. It's one of the reasons I love working in a business model like this is we kind of get the inside look on what's trending in a sense. And so we absolutely look at that. From a marketing perspective, there's been so much change, I think, in recent years, but particularly in the last year and a half, 2 years, with refocusing on efficiency. I think so many marketers have really had to kind of go to task with how do I do more with less. Funding has been harder to come by. I'm having to make tough calls around potentially laying off my team or how to work really lean and maximize profitability for my business. And so we've actually found kind of through that more demand for agency services generally, because when I'm being asked to kind of make trade-offs on, well, I can't hire, I can't build this skill set internally, but I need to still deliver growth. Agencies offer a model that allows you to kind of scale that up and down and have more flexibility. So we've almost found, in a way, it's a little bit recession-proof. Of course, people are more price sensitive. We're seeing, contracts have taken a little bit longer to come to fruition, but by and large, there's still a lot of demand out there for different services. And I think one of the trends we've seen more recently in the marketing segments is that I think there was previously a lot of demand for very tactical kind of performance marketing type agencies to kind of do more of the tactical work for their business, like run my PPC campaigns on Google Ads, really do this very, more tactical work in a specific channel or specific area of expertise. And we're seeing more of a shift for demand for more strategic work. Like I need a product marketing agency that's going to help me position my brand. I need fractional CMO who's going to help me figure out I reorg and structure this for growth in the future. So we're seeing a shift, I think, a lot more toward more strategic kind of qualitative type marketing, away from, not to say away from, but just a shift in that focus. And, there's still we want a social media agency, we want that technical type of project work, but a lot more demand for some of these, I would say, higher level type of project engagement.
Yeah. And I've certainly seen the same thing. And I think part of what's driving that is I think a lot of people were unfortunately offering tactics alone. And sometimes those tactics were disconnected. There's a heck of a lot of pressure on price. I mean, there's people selling website design for, $100, $200, so there's a ton of pressure on just pricing tactics. And I think what we're seeing is, whether they're agencies or just people hanging out a shingle calling themselves a fractional CMO, that they're actually attracting a better client who is looking for strategy as opposed to a quick fix. And I think it also dramatically changes the relationship with the client. If you're brought in to orchestrate, all the parts, you really become, I think, more of a trusted advisor. And I think getting out of sort of the vendor status, is probably a really good move. So I think it's reaffirming that you're seeing more demand for it, from the buyer, rather than it just being a trendy, thing in the market that people have decided to offer. What are some of the challenges that, if buyers are asking for that, are you seeing challenges with agencies being able to respond to that? Or are you seeing the same thing where a lot of them are actually putting out strategic offerings, or, maybe going as far as calling themselves a fractional CMO or having that as a service?
I think it varies, right? And there are folks who have done a really great job of niching down and kind of defining what they are best for. And I think those are the companies that see the most success on a platform like ours. And I think on most marketing channels, as you're out advertising your agency services, the more specific you can be around who you are for, whether that's just specific industry expertise or a specific kind of strategic skill set that you bring, a very specialized expertise. That is where we are seeing growing demand as buyers are getting really specific around the types of folks they want to hire for different things. And then we are seeing providers see more success when they are really specific around who they want to target. I think the companies that have struggled, as priorities have shifted, as budgets have shifted, are the ones who kind of were like, we offer anything and we just want to grow, and we do all sorts of marketing services. So we want to be across your entire site. We want to be, PPC, SEO, digital marketing, advertising. We can do it all. And I think it's hard for those businesses to kind of focus on where is the growth going to come from, if they're trying to kind of spread themselves too thin and be kind of all things for all potential clients.
How has, or maybe you haven't, has Clutch, evolved? You're seeing more demand for strategic. Is that caused any kind of change in your platform, or is it really just you're observing, kind of the supply and demand changing?
I think we have continued to really think about how do we, one, continue to do research and understand where the demand is. We get majority of the folks who are coming to Clutch are finding us because they're searching for a particular type of service. And so we are constantly out there looking of what are people searching for? What's in the news? What are podcasts like your own talking about? And what are we hearing? So that we are ahead of that, and we are providing, who are the agencies offering these services, and let's make sure we have those represented. And then it's around, on the service provider side, kind of coaching them on, how do you make sure that you're placed in the right places for what your business specializes in, and does your actual website and your messaging and your pitch match who you're trying to target, right? And that's been a lot of the education there. So I wouldn't say it's been, it's kind of a constant state of change, but nothing kind of step function. It's just we evolve as the market evolves.
So I'm sure you have many. Hopefully you can recall one. Do you have any case studies that you cite of agencies that Clutch has actually become a significant growth channel for them?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you asked that. We were just in an internal Slack channel hearing a story from a company that said we were literally on the verge of going out of business. We had no business coming in, growth had really slowed, and we were not sure we were going to be able to continue to make payroll and continue to keep this going. And they started a Clutch campaign, and they got 2 projects that they closed this morning that kind of kept the lights on for them. So we often hear those types of stories that, I think one of the great things about professional services is we're helping what tend to be pretty small businesses, maybe a solopreneurship. More often it's a handful of folks who come together to form an agency, that one project can really make or break their trajectory for a lot of times, and they're big value projects. So yeah, I think we have a mix of client sizes, and there's that example that I just gave, but we also have folks who are global agencies with hundreds of employees, and they have lots of Fortune 500 clients and years and years of experience, and obviously that's a different type of relationship. But I think Clutch is still a really valuable part of their marketing mix, because I think sites like Clutch not only help with the discovery as folks are looking for certain types of services, but it helps with that validation kind of throughout the buying cycle. Maybe you got a referral for this agency. Right. They're like, well, what kind of work have they done? Have they done any work in my industry? We see a lot of folks coming directly to the profiles of the providers listed on our site to read those reviews and say, well, sure, I got a referral from someone in my network, but they're a totally different type of business. Is this going to be the right fit for me? And so it still influences that relationship in that way, because they're validating and kind of making, they're doing due diligence around whether this is going to be the right fit.
So one last question, and more of a personal one. What drew you to the marketing world?
Oh, great question. I think I've always had this kind of right brain, left brain combination.
It's really a struggle more than a combination, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a constant internal tug of war, I would say. But my favorite subjects in school were math and English and art. So I kind of, as I went through college and narrowed in on what I wanted to do, was really drawn to marketing as kind of the intersection of all of those things, and being able to use kind of a strategic analytical mindset with a more creative outlet. And so I kind of really got into it. I went, to the University of Virginia, studied business, and then was fortunate to work right out of school in a small social media agency, right kind of when social media was just becoming a concept for businesses, and learned a lot there. That agency actually went out of business within a year of me graduating. It was right around the Great Recession. And so that first experience, I think, gave me, one, a little taste of the agency world and how fleeting it can be at times if, client demand is not there, and living through a similar period I think a lot of agencies are experiencing now, where, there is, it's harder to get those consistent client relationships, but was fortunate to bounce back, landed in the B2B SaaS world, and really grew my career in the SaaS industry.
Awesome. Well, Katie, I appreciate you taking a few moments to stop by the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. Is there somewhere you would invite people to connect with you and maybe find out more about the work at Clutch?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Katie Hollar, and would love to connect with any fellow Duct Tape listeners.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we'll run into you one of these days out there on the road.